This is Ken from Coffee Crafters, and I want to do a video to show you how to change a motor in an Artisan 5 through an Artisan XE. And the actual mount bracket is the same for all of them, so this process will be the same. There's a couple little changes we'll discuss along the way from one to the other. One of the differences is the early Artisan 5s and 6s did not have a floor panel in it, which makes it a little bit easier because you just have to put the roaster down on its face the same. But basically the process is the same. So if you buy a motor from us, it will come with the connections on there. But if you buy a roaster through another party that's the same part number, we'll give it to you, and we even have some places where you can get them for the same price we get them for, so we give people that link all the time. And if that's the case, then you'll have to put these connectors on there. So Bryce, you want to look at those connectors? So if you have your own motor and you want to put connectors on them, they're blue, which signifies a 14/16 size of insulated female spade connectors for the 2 motor leads, and then the ground wire. We have a ring connector, but you can put a fork connector on there the same. So we're going to set that aside. To start this project, you're going to want to take the front panel off of your roaster. And the tools that you're going to need for this job is a 3/8 nut driver or a socket. That's to get the mount nuts off of the motor bracket itself. A 7/16 wrench to take the feet off if you have one with the floor pan on it, and a 1/2 inch socket to actually get the motor off of the motor mount bracket. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to turn this around. And we're going to put the motor, or the roaster, on its side. And the reason we're going to put it on the side is for this roaster that has the foot bracket, we're going to reach in there and unscrew these. This is where the 7/16 inch wrench comes into play. So the feet actually keep the floor pan in place on this model. And on the inside, there's a nut and a lock washer. So we'll take the feet off. It's going to help if you have a helper to put the roaster on its face on a table. That's the absolute easiest way to change it. So when we take the bottom pan off, you can see the motor mounted in here. And Bryce, if you want to come around here, you'll see that this bracket is slotted. So when we put the new motor back in, we're going to rock it into place, and then it's going to slide right inside of the air box there. So these are the electrical wires. When you receive your roaster, you're going to get some new zip ties and a couple of posts in case one of these comes off, and that just kind of keeps the wires in place so they're not in the way. So we're going to go ahead and cut those because we're going to take this off. Now this is a 240 volt motor, so these motor leads are not in any order. You can reverse them, the motor will work just the same. So we're going to unplug those, and you'll see on the machine it has the male spade connectors. So that's why we put the female spade connectors on that side. Going to take the ground screw out, which just screws into the bottom of the air box. There we go. So now we can take the motor out. You can actually take the motor out. I'm going to raise my cart a little bit here, make the video a little bit easier to see. You can either take the motor out at this orientation, or you can lay it completely on its face. For the video here, I'm going to go ahead and leave it like this. We're going to take our 3/8 nut driver. So Bryce, you want to get in here and you'll see there are actually 4 studs in here that mount this into place. There's 2 over here on the back panel of the roaster, and then there's 2 over here. So we're going to take those off. These have some big washers on them and Kep's nuts. Take the ones off the back side. When we get these out, we're going to be able to lift that motor right out of the way. Okay, now the motor is free, so it's just sitting on the slots of the bracket, and if I lift that up, I'll be able to take the motor right out. So we're going to go over here on the table here. And this is where we're going to use a 1/2-inch wrench. Let me turn that light around there. So there are 3 bolts on here that have 1/2-inch nuts on them and washers, and we're going to take those off. And we're going to remove the old motor. So this is what the plate looks like. Now when we put the new motor back on, we have to put it in the right orientation. And so the discharge spout of the motor goes on the part that's notched out there. So we're going to put it on just like that. So you can see that discharge right there. Put our lock washers back on. Now one of the things you want to be really, really careful, do not over tighten these nuts, because all these studs are doing is they're holding this motor down tight against the plate. So when we put these back on, I use my 1/2-inch socket, but I only want to tighten them down until the lock washer is compressed, because all it's doing is holding it in place. Get in here, Bryce, and look at that. You can see that that's an aluminum tab on that motor, and I've actually done it myself, over tightened it and broke the tab off, and you don't want to do that. So I'm going to tighten those just until I feel the lock washer depress. It doesn't take a lot of pressure, keep it in place. So I just made sure my lock washers were depressed there, and then the new motor's ready to put back in. So now when we go to put this back in, remember we have this, there's 2 studs here and there's 2 studs here. So we're going to hold that up, guide it onto the back ones, guide it onto the front, and then we're going to hold that motor over, and it just slid into place. We know the motor's all the way in when the side of the motor mount bracket is in contact with the airbox, and that lets us know that it's in the right place. We'll put our studs back on. It shouldn't take you over 15 or 20 minutes. And if you have some help, it really helps to wrestle the roaster around and get it on its face. We've even changed motors in the Artisan 9 Deluxe model, and by setting the whole roaster on his face. Only with help though. We'll tighten those up. Right, got the new motor on. So we're going to take our ground, we're going to pull it around here, and always put that in first. And one of the things we use this ground cable for is we zip tie the other wires to it. We'll usually grab some of those, run a zip tie on there. Our other wires are down here, and remember, it doesn't matter which one we plug it into. If they got reversed from where it was originally, it wouldn't hurt anything. Plug those in, make sure they slide in tight, and then reconnect these to the post. I try to position these about in the center of the two posts. Trim those off, and that's it. So we got the motor in there secured, tightened on to the motor mount plate. We got these 3/8 inch on there, and that's it. We just changed the motor. So you go to put it back. If you're going to work on a roaster that has the bottom floor pan in it, you put that on, put the feet through, tighten up the bolts from the back side and lock washer. That's where the 7/16 wrench comes in, and button it up, tip it back up on his face, put the faceplate back on, and you're finished.